It's sort of a family saga, and I don't mind that word, I think it's good. And it's based on real events. My parents, particularly my dad, had these tantalising memories from when he was sort of 8, 9, 10 years old of these people.
There was a gang called Peaky Blinders who did exist in Birmingham at the time. They did have blades sewn into their caps, they did fight like that.
Who were incredibly well dressed, who were incredibly powerful, who had a lot of money, in an area where no one had money, and they were gangsters.
It's the first thing that I noticed, and the first thing everybody notices actually, is this amazing, amazing world that Steve depicted. It felt like a world I'd never seen before, and the level of detail and description in the script was just incredibly alluring.
Like the feeling that you're inhabiting not just another person's skin, but also another person's time and place.
It's a world post-First World War, where men are brutalised, where women for the first time have had power and are having to hand it back to men, where the local gypsy community is running the races, and these gangs are running a new society that was born from the First World War.
They're doing a magic spell to make her win a race.
The core male characters are 3 brothers. Arthur, being the oldest, would naturally be the leader of the gang. But Tommy, the younger brother, is naturally a leader.
And why didn't you tell me?
I'm telling you.
Arthur's content with the world as it is, and, you know, the Peaky Blinders as they are, basically running pubs, running gambling rackets. If he can walk into a club, if his name is enough of an intimidation and a threat to people, then that's enough for him.
I want a blowjob off both of you before they let the ordinary people in. Where you go. Take your hat off. What the fuck?
I'm not a tough guy at all, so it was by far the toughest character I have ever portrayed.
I'm told the boss is called Tommy, and I'm guessing that's you, because you're looking me up and down like I'm a fucking tart.
I want to know what you want.
We had to have someone who could be cool and aloof, as Thomas has written, but also allow you in so that you wanted to stay with him. And actually, you know, he's a criminal, and he's quite brutal. He's quite unkind to his family, and we needed for people to like him at the same time.
He is a man on a mission. And we're not quite sure when we meet him what that mission is.
I have 10 minutes. What do you want?
Ultimately, Tommy does prove himself to be right in his instincts and his vision, but it causes a lot of tension, which is wonderful for drama.
Thomas, you're a bookmaker, a robber, a fighting man. You're not a fool.
There's really only sort of 3 female characters, but all of them are really fiery and bold. It's not often that you get written a part that, as a woman, that's so alpha. Everyone's kind of so feisty and strong and so different and so complex.
It's a very difficult script to realise onto screen. The problem is that it's almost written like a novel. It's got a huge amount of characters in it. The production value on it is massive.
Pan right a bit, John.
We were lucky to have 2 fantastic directors working on the show, Otto Bathurst and Tom Harper, both of whom really got behind what Steve had written, but then brought something of their own to the show and took it up another gear.
What I had no interest in making was an historical drama. I had no interest in just sort of rewinding the clock and telling you what it was like in 1919.
Did you fall for Tommy?
And I was passionate that this should be lit and shot in exactly the same way as if the story was completely contemporary. Once I took off the shackles of historical accuracy, then you kind of go, cool, then we can now have some real fun here. We can make a really cool show.
The first thing when I read it, I thought it was epic. It had great scale. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to go and do a Western, that kind of scale, and take that reference point as a jumping off point for the look and the feel and to set that as the kind of foundation for the ambition for the show.
This set in here, it was the Garrison Tavern basically, and this was our main pub set. And kind of what's cool about this set and what I wanted to show you was that it kind of perfectly illustrates what we were trying to get at. So scripted, it's just written as as the local pub.
It's kind of a cross between a prohibition bar in New York and a Western saloon, the scale of it. So you're kind of not going totally British with it, you're kind of bringing those elements into it so that you take the audience and give them nods into worlds that they kind of know, and then just nudging them to think, well, actually, it's a little bit more flamboyant.
Once you get all the extras in here and you get them singing and you get the drinks pouring, it just had an incredible, incredible atmosphere.
We haven't had singing in here since the war.
Why do you think that is, Ali?
Katie and I decided very, very early on that this was going to become a location shoot, and that actually, yes, we would have our bases and we would have our key sets, but we would also get out there. It makes it incredibly hard on production, it makes it incredibly hard on the unit, but it does give the piece real energy.
Action!
To do a show like this, normally people would take a building and then sort of try and shoot everything in that building just for cost effectiveness. But we never found a building that really just echoed the ambitions that we had.
Then we ended up finding these incredible locations in Liverpool. And we were just by accident found this street. And to get a street that was intact with nobody living in it and be let loose, to paint it all back, to take out anything modern, was an incredible find.
One of the things we had to do was get all the houses back to the same colour. They painted every single house black. Then they hand-painted every single brick, not once, but twice. They then replaced every single window. They then replaced every single door. And everybody goes, oh God, this is a really good location. This is really amazing. And you just kind of go, no, you have no idea how much work has gone into this place.
All the houses were painted back. All the interiors use a very limited palette of colours, and they're on a very they're on the brown-green spectrum, so that when you go rich, you go colour. When Thomas goes to Kimber's party at Cheltenham, it's the first big kind of showy, glamour, rich set that you'll see, and it's got gold and blacks, and it's flamboyant. In a way, then you create a narrative with the sets to help the story, so that you will see anything rich has colour to it. Like Churchill has colour, his bed has colour, it's got red, it's got golds. So it's very, there were clear design choices led by the script and thinking about what you're going to use colours for.
You're trying to create a world for people that looks real but is also slightly stylised. The war's just ended, people haven't had money, people would still be wearing clothes from 5 years ago before the war started.
We're really in that time where people wanted something new, and I think they weren't happy to go back to the lives they'd had before, which is where the 20s really came from. It really sparked off this energy of lots of young people wanting to sort of break free from all the, the corsets at the beginning of the century and these long skirts, and suddenly the girls' dresses were getting shorter and they were looser.
How do I look?
So we thought it was quite nice with the girls, particularly with Ada's character, that she's a bit more forward-thinking, so we went up to about 1922, whereas a lot of the other characters aren't. Polly is dressed kind of in the past in some ways, and her clothes are definitely pre-war.
The big one with this was going to be the haircuts, the big one, because again, I wanted to create a really, really specific look, you know, that as an audience you kind of go, that is a very, very strong haircut. I'm loving that.
Our Bible was Crooks Like Us, which is an amazing book. It's an amazing reference because it's all real people, you know. This is what they look like. We've just taken a lot of the characters. So like this one here, I wanted Arthur to be very similar to that.
And so we'd show them the haircut, and it would show them, you know, page 11, they kind of go, you're joking, I look like an idiot, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. And it literally took a week to persuade our 4 men to go the whole way.
And once one of them did it, they all did it.
Yeah, it was a gradual, shaving off of the hair, all of us boys, with our vain approach to hair.
We ended up, I don't want to say it, but I think I went with the most extreme haircut first, and then the Peakies copied me. Just saying.
I looked in the mirror and I just thought, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I really weren't sure about the look.
I think I got a short straw with this one, man. Like, you know, as the younger brother, I had to take the brunt of it and get probably the shortest, most ridiculous one.
Yeah, I used to have like hair up to here, but it doesn't matter. I'll grow it back.
We're at the end now of what, 4 months, a 4-month shoot, and it's grown on me. I love it.
Women recoil. They flee in the opposite direction when they see something like this. So the moustache will be coming off on wrap.
Get yourself a decent haircut, man. We're going to the races.
One of the wider issues that I wanted to point out was that all of these men have returned from the First World War, where they were instructed to carry out mass murder every day on an unprecedented industrial scale.
You know, 1919, we're just after the First War, and many things were in a fragile state, including the mental health of many of the men who came back from the war.
They've returned very damaged, and they are violent as a result of their experiences. So you have that very interesting dynamic of men returning from the front line and finding they cannot live an ordinary life.
I said, go home.
Fix my legs!
You know, I think with Tommy Shelby, I think the effect of the First World War can't be understated, really. I think he's come back from there with a massive disdain for authority. I think he's come back godless. He's seen the fragility of life and how like it disappears.
I'm always very keen that any act of violence has a consequence in terms of the story. Very rarely in the real world is there an act of violence that doesn't have quite a big consequence. So in an early episode when they do use the razor blades, it has a consequence that lasts for the rest of the series.
He's not a man who would ever resort to violence needlessly, but when it happens, he's more than capable of taking part. But violence then amongst men back then, it was a completely different thing. It was run of the mill. It was sort of quotidian.